Yes. Oh my gosh. I am here with one of my most favorite people. I mean, truly, you like warm my heart. We met how long ago? It was
I think it's been about a year and a half.
a year and a half or so.
Yes.
Yeah. And Charity has been a client, a friend, a guide, filled with so much wisdom, and just like watching your journey. And I've just loved it. So I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. And before we dive in, just sharing with people that are listening, thank you for being here, because I truly believe that this is one of the most important conversations we can be having. The wisdom from within. We all have it. We all have so much wisdom, and we're not really taught how to listen to it. And every week we're here talking with so many types of people, talking about their life experience. What does the wisdom from within look like and feel like? And did we, are we connected to it? Are we detached? And if so, how did we come back? This is about pouring into you, the conversations, and then the people that are listening, to give us all tools and inspiration around awakening this wisdom and learning how to listen to our own and trust its guidance, so that we can live authentically, truthfully, honestly, for ourselves and for our children and for our teams, and just in general, creating vision for our life. I mean, that's what we want to do, right? Enjoy our life in the best way possible. So that's what this is all about. So I want to just dive into you and your story and your connection to this topic. Can you just start by just sharing a little bit about you and what you do, and then we'll just naturally flow into your story through that.
All right. So I am Charity Haney. I am a business owner. I own Soul's Lighthouse. And let's see, gosh, this is a big question.
That's a huge question. That's a huge question. So let me ask you this. With this lens of wisdom from within, like what, leading to this work, I know it's so deep for you. And you really help people, right, through grief, like through moments, difficult moments in their life, specifically grief, right? Yes. Can you share how you came to that a little bit?
Yeah. So looking back, now I understand that I have always been meant to work in this grief area. When I was a kid, my grandmother would take me to the cemetery, and it was a beautiful experience. We would go to visit my granddad's grave, and we'd plant flowers, and it was very ritualistic. And as a kid, I thought it was very normal to do those kinds of things. Mm. And I actually found that to be like a very peaceful place for me. Like I would really enjoy it. It was quiet and calm. And for me, it felt very peaceful. And then over time, my life kind of, you kind of get told, well, that's weird by someone, or don't talk about that, or don't this or that. And so you get kind of directed in a different way. And I definitely did that. I felt as though I was wrong by having those feelings about grief and just the loss in general, how it always had to be a terrible, terrible thing. Like it can be terrible and beautiful all at the same time, but there wasn't that other piece.
Right.
And it wasn't until I lost my dad in 2018 that I really felt that deep darkness. And I got connected to a practice called grief yoga with Paul Denniston. And that taught me, like, oh my gosh, I can really have like sadness and happiness at the same time and not feel bad inside and not feel like I'm a bad person or a bad daughter or whatever. And so I started teaching this practice as part of my yoga offerings. And I started seeing other people attached to that, like brilliance to all of this, like feeling everything, just feeling everything and letting yourself do so. because in the Navy, I was in the Navy as well for 21 years, and there wasn't a lot of like opportunity to feel.
Mm-hmm.
And being a musician in the Navy, we are automatic feelers, but we're not supposed to feel too much. And so it was a lot of this back and forth my whole life until now.
Mm. Wow. Like there's so much in there. I'm sure if when or who is listening is wondering, wow, like that is just so fascinating that you were raised to go into a place that typically people would be so dark in. And yes, I'm sure there was darkness, but you felt that light also, that duality. Can you talk a little bit about how you knew, like what was the feeling? Because this is that wisdom, right? Like this is our body telling us what we like and what we don't, and what's comfortable and what's not. And so can you connect those dots at all? Do you remember your body kind of how you felt there? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. There, one particular way that I knew is that when things would be stressful at home,
Mm-hmm.
I would hop on my bike and I would ride. There was I grew up in a very small town. And so there was this tiny little cemetery, and I would drive down there on my bike, sit and read. And it just, my body felt settled and rested. And I didn't sense all of that tension that was everywhere else. It almost felt like this little area for me was like in this snow globe bubble of, again, not necessarily joy, but comforting peace in some way.
Mm-hmm. Right. Wow, that's so fantastic. I just love that. And I love that you continued to listen to that, because you said that there were people that would make comments like, oh, you're weird, or this is strange. Like, how did you combat that?
I didn't actually. For a very long time, I followed them. I went, okay, I must be weird. And so it's like, I felt as though, I started out this just kind of like bright light and open about everything. And then as I traveled down the road of life, you get kind of be into this, like, this little kind of like box of what society says is right, or and around that box is, are all of those terms of I'm not good enough, the perfectionism because I'm trying to get attention, and and it's a lot of work when you're working against what your soul wants to do. It's a lot of work and a lot of tension and heaviness that you're carrying like your whole life, because you're not doing what you're meant to do, or doing what you're meant to feel.
Yes. That's such an interesting concept around how much work it takes to fight against your soul, to go against your soul, and what that does internally, right? Like what, from an energetic standpoint, like what is that feeling like? I mean, I certainly know, because I've had my own experiences with that as well. I'm curious for you, what did that feel like in your body, going against what you know or knew was right for you?
Even when you said that, I can feel, it's like my heart sinks.
Uh-huh.
It's almost like a disappointment.
Yeah.
And it's not that my heart is disappointed. It's just that knowing inside that I might be doing good where I'm at, but there's even something more.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's beautiful. So talk to us a little bit about the return home to your soul.
So transition can be kind of messy. And I definitely did that, which is fine because it makes me so appreciative of where I am. But there were things like really bad marriage that I stayed in for a long time. And then a lot of just other places where I stayed because I could do well there. Oh, I was doing great, but it was a lot of work, and a lot of people not understanding me. And when I left the Navy, I did so because I felt like there was something I was meant to do that I couldn't do there. Like, it's like I did all the things I needed to go elsewhere. And so even that transition was hard. because when I got out of there, it was a lot of sudden rush of my own stuff coming up. Like I didn't have 1,000 other people to deal with and talk with and help. And all of a sudden it was me. And so this rush of, dealing with the childhood trauma, dealing with the divorce things that I maybe hadn't, like all these different layers that started surfacing. And so each layer had its own, set of different tools that I used to get through. So some was the grief yoga. Definitely power of gesture has gotten me over an enormous place where instead of me only dealing with things of my past, I'm dealing with the thoughts. I am not my thoughts, I am better and more than just my thoughts. And so power of gesture has helped me greatly like that.
So how, what happens inside of your body, that realignment and using the different tools? Can you feel a real re-engagement, almost like a reunion with your soul?
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I feel it. It's I go from this place of lack.
Yeah.
And this place of feeling just kind of just shrunk, just literally shrunk down and my shoulders round, just kind of this feeling of, oh, here I am trying to put myself out into the world. And now I'm coming from a place of, this is what I was meant to do. And so this is me. And what else is there? Truly, when we get down to it, it's going back to that little girl that was like this, instead of all of the things society tells us we have to be or things like that.
Yeah. I'm remembering, so the story that we created together about your life. So I used, for those that don't know and are listening, I have not only the power of gesture is my practice that does all of this, awakens the inside of us and reconnects us and so forth. But I have this practice where I create stories, video documentaries about people's lives. And Charity and I did it together. And I remember in one of the parts, it was one of the scenes to get you into that memory of that childhood joy, to reconnect to that part of you that is so alive. Well, wasn't so alive necessarily, came alive even more through the work and your own work. You were dancing big, remember?
Yes.
Really spread out and just very joyful. And that I feel I remember you saying that really helped re-engage with the energy of you as a child and maybe helped you reconnect a little bit more. Does that resonate at all?
Oh, completely. I think we talk about, connecting back to our inner child and everything. And it's a circle of life. We're born, we live, we pass, we're born, and it's just a circle, right? And so we need to come back to that childlike intuition, that joy, and also the way that we deal with things. I mean, kids aren't always joyful, and I'm not going to go have a temper tantrum in the middle of a store right now, but I can offer myself space to feel like that.
Yeah.
To feel like I am so mad right now, and then turn and go, wow, that's a beautiful tree out there. I can have it all at the same time. And I think that's why kids are such great teachers.
Oh my gosh, totally. You hit on a couple of things. I mean, the duality, first of all, inside of us. And I love how you've just given yourself permission to feel all of it, the sad and the happy, the angry and the peacefulness, whatever the duality is. And it sounds like you really learned that, or at least that seed was instilled or planted when you were at the cemetery. Because for you to feel peace and joy while being in a place like that with alongside grief, what a beautiful blend and permission that you gave yourself to feel all of that. Sounds like that carried all the way through your life so far.
Yeah. Yeah. And being able to see, like my grandmother and I enjoying planting flowers and having it be this kind of ritual that we did every week, but then looking around and seeing other people that are in mourning, and it in this one place held all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Like it held so many things that are beautiful or heartbreakingly beautiful. There's something very special about that, being able to hold so many emotions in one area like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how grief is. Grief is 100% up and down, up and down. So
Yeah.
learning to ride that.
Yeah, I'd love to. That's a great segue into the work that you're doing. And because I think people have their opinions or definitions of grief, and it seems like you really, and how to move through it. And it seems like you have a really unique perspective. Will you share that? And also, yeah, share that. That'd be great.
Yeah, yeah. And even as I share my perspective on it and what I offer, there's a multitude of ways to grieve. There's no right way, there's no wrong way. There's tons of ways to grieve, and they're all great. They're all something that it's very unique and personal to us, and it's not like, oh, you're doing that, you need to do this instead. It's very much a unique thing for that human. So remembering that grief is love, and it's kind of trapped. I share, one of the offerings I share is the grief yoga practice, where it can be done in a chair. It can be done at any age. And it combines this breath and movement and sound in a way that invites in shifting of the grief, not forgetting, but just kind of it to move through your body instead of get stuck. And then all of a sudden you have, oh my gosh, I have so much tension here. The body really remembers all these things. And so moving that through, grief circles where we get together and talk about grief, talk about dying. And sometimes the grief circles, we're laughing, we're sharing memories that are also tucked away. Like after a loved one passes, no one wants to ask about them. Mm-hmm. So it's almost like they died 2 times, because now you have all these memories, good and maybe not so good, but nobody's gonna listen, and so these grief circles are really nice to invite people to share whatever they need to. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And one of the other ones that I'm really excited about that came about most recently is the soul midwife work. Mm. And that's of transitioning terminal folks through. So transitioning them from their life through to their death, and in a hope that it's a more peaceful transition, mm-hmm. Which would help the family and the dying.
So there's a huge range of age and people that you're working with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's so David Kessler, that's who I got my grief education through. And he always says this line that, grief doesn't, or there's no one way that grief chooses. Mm-hmm. And I know I messed up that quote, but whatever. But okay. It's that way of, it's random. We have no idea. It could be someone young, someone old, someone here, it's random. There's no reason.
Yeah. I love that. Must make people feel so comforted by that there isn't a straight and narrow path. So I think it would be really helpful to maybe share a couple of tools or things that people can do when they are grieving and they are feeling stuck in their body. How would you suggest, as someone like a person that's not a body person necessarily, or uses their body as a catalyst to help them heal and move through, like what would be a simple, accessible way to do that?
The way that I always like to start with is with breath. Mm-hmm. Because one of the things that we tend to completely take for granted is our breath, and it's the only reason we're all still here.
Yeah.
So that one thing is just kind of forgotten about. And so what I would invite someone to do is, if they close their eyes or not, it's truly not important. It's what's comfortable for them. But then just allowing them to notice sensations as their breath moves through their body. And what that does is it starts to reconnect the brain and their body. So the brain might be going wild about something. The body might be hurting and heavy from maybe some grief or pain in whatever way. And they start to detach from each other. I'm going to ignore that pain.
Yeah.
And then the pain gets louder. I've got to ignore it more. I have to go, take something, or I have to go do something else to ignore. And they just start to separate.
Yeah.
But the breath is the one thing that can unite. And so inviting in some very long exhalations, and even that, watching it's got this settling effect on the body.
Yeah.
So without them even knowing anything about yoga, anything about grief, just helping someone to get present to breathing is really powerful.
I love that. I'm thinking too about, when you were doing this with your hands, I can't help because, the power of gesture. It's like that breath settling, and then that potentially even bringing in some gesture to move the breath through, right? What do you think about that? As you were doing it, I was like, oh, how beautiful to kind of, almost like see and imagine the space, carving out the space and lifting the energy up and out.
Yeah. And even with that, there's another gesture I love too. And it's, to me, it seems like the old school thermometers that had like the red line, and, bringing that red line down, and it's a breath in. And it's almost like taking the heat of a just over energized mind and just settling that temperature down.
It's really amazing how we have so much wisdom, not only to guide us in a new thought process or whatever active, inspired action. We also, the wisdom to just our physical wisdom, right? The kinesthetic wisdom in the hands and the gesture, and the body being the voice, the body being the catalyst to move us through, to really empowering people with that, I think is so beautiful and important, because we always feel, not everyone, this is generalization, but a lot of us feel like we need to, like you said at the beginning, think our way through, right? From the neck up, think our way through, when we can really feel our way through experiences like grief or other that can really help us move into a place that feels good, right?
Right. And that's truly the goal of life, of all of these offerings and everything, is to find more peace.
Yeah.
And so, yes, we're definitely not about this, oh, just resist it, just ignore it, just whatever, it'll go away, it'll get better. It doesn't, unless you do the work to have it get better. It might feel better on the short term, but long term, it'll come back in another way.
Yeah. So in the work that you do, we have a few minutes left. I just want to bring it all full circle, talking about bringing it all full circle. Do you feel, it's pretty obvious how the dots have connected in your life in terms of your childhood, and then through adolescence, young adulthood, and now adulthood, and as a mother and everything, now doing the work that you're doing. Do you feel like this sort of awareness and connection and reconnection, as you said, like you've really returned, has served you in your business with your children, is there wisdom that you share? You know, I'm sure there's a lot of nuggets that you share based on your own life experience.
Yeah. There's a lot of times now when I look back at when, like, I don't want to call them mistakes because it's gotten me here, but just maybe difficult parts of my life. Most of those choices that I made were out of fear of being me.
Right.
The true me, of fear of, well, if I say something to this person, then they're going to leave and I'm going to be alone, you know, like all of these different things.
Yeah.
And so trying to share that with my, you know, children, it's challenging with kids because, you know, they were a part of the time when I wasn't
Right.
too.
Right.
And so I planted some of those seeds,
Right.
which we all have. And so just trying to provide them as many tools now, like earlier on than what I found them.
Yeah.
Providing those to them, or just, you know, I think even with all of us, we see someone do something and then all of a sudden we're like, I could do that. Like maybe I should do that.
Right.
And so being like an example for them, or just whoever, being that example of, you can be you. You can be whoever you want. You can do this, you can do that. And knowing that feeling of when you're not being true to yourself, and then giving yourself grace. Because if you choose to not be true to yourself, okay. Like if you're lucky enough, and I feel really, really lucky.
Yeah.
If you're lucky enough, it'll come around and give you another opportunity to learn something.
Right.
And to shed that.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is such a big concept around the body's wisdom, the trust. It's the trusting. And how do we get there? I mean, it's so common. How do I know? How can I trust? But there is, if we open up to what's possible and just believe in the path, so much becomes available for us. I love all of it. Will you share in the last minute or so just where people can find you? I think your work is so phenomenal and so important, and your life experience having been such a huge part of the wisdom that you share with your clients and your community. Just incredible. I want people to know where they can find you.
Yeah. So the website is souls-lighthouse.com. And actually the video that Jen was mentioning, you can find that on the About page under all of my info stuffs. And I'm on Instagram, Souls Lighthouse, and Facebook, Souls Lighthouse.
I love that. I'm really curious quickly about you coming up with the name. I'm always curious about, was that a body nudge? Was it like a download? And how did you hear it and then believe in it and then just go for it and name your company that? Because it's such a beautiful name.
So this is all about wisdom from within. I took like a year. Actually, it was kind of when I met you. I took that whole year to just try to figure out what felt right. And I got the nudges. You got to hurry. You got to, put this out there.
Yeah.
I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready. And so the lighthouse concept comes from the fact that when I was in the Navy, and a lighthouse helps to direct ships, helps to direct the sailors when everything's dark. And so my purpose, my passion is to help walk with people that are in darkness so that they can also remember their light. So I'll be their beam, I'll be that beacon for them and help, walk with them, so they can remember their soul, whether it's living or you're getting ready to say goodbye to your soul. Like they're both just a really beautiful connection piece.
I'm just blown away by that. I know you wrote about it on your website. That is so gorgeous. That is just a beautiful example of listening to the wisdom within. I mean, I keep saying it, but it's true. It's like you were led and you allowed yourself to be led by something inside of you. And the voice really took you exactly where you needed to go and birthed this beautiful, beautiful business. What gorgeous work you're doing in the world, how important it is. And I hope people reach out to you. I'm sure they will. I adore you. And I just think you're awesome.
Thank you, Jen. Same right back at you.
All right, everybody. We'll see you next week on Wisdom from Within. Yeah. Okay, let's see what happens.